Painted through the pages of humanity's history, some moments stand out as stark reminders of the fragility of civilization and the depths of human depravity. Among these, September 11, 2001, commonly referred to as 9/11, looms large as a day that altered the course of global events and reshaped the collective consciousness of humanity. From the ominous build-up to the harrowing events of that fateful day and the enduring aftermath, the story of 9/11 is one of tragedy, heroism, and resilience. The exact cause of the 9/11 terrorist attack can be traced to a complex web of historical, geopolitical, and ideological factors that converge to create a perfect storm of hatred, resentment, and extremism. At its core, the attack was the culmination of decades of simmering tensions between the United States and the Middle East, fueled by grievances genuine and perceived and exploited by ruthless individuals with a twisted vision of the world. Throughout the 1990s, Al-Qaeda orchestrated a series of attacks against American interests, including the 1993 bombing of the World Trade Center and the 1998 embassy bombings in Africa. These brazen acts of terrorism served as ominous precursors to the cataclysmic events that would unfold on 9/11, foreshadowing the abyss of perversion and the lengths to which extremist groups would go to achieve their nefarious goals. Against this backdrop of simmering resentment and anger, Osama bin Laden and his Al-Qaeda network saw an opportunity to strike a blow against their perceived enemies and advance their twisted agenda of global jihad. Moreover, the United States' unwavering support for Israel in its ongoing conflict with the Palestinians further fueled anti-American sentiment in the Middle East, painting the US as an enemy of Islam and a supporter of oppression and injustice. Images of Palestinian suffering and Israeli aggression broadcasted across the Arab world served as potent propaganda tools for extremist groups seeking to recruit disaffected youths and radicalize them in the name of jihad. On the morning of September 11, 2001, the terrorists infiltrated the airports where their chosen flights originated, blending seamlessly into the throngs of travelers and exploiting weaknesses in security checkpoints. With forged documents and false identities, they passed through screening procedures undetected, concealing their deadly intentions beneath a veneer of normalcy. They identified 4 commercial airliners: American Airlines Flight 11, United Airlines Flight 175, American Airlines Flight 77, and United Airlines Flight 93, that would serve as their instruments of destruction. Once aboard the planes, the hijackers revealed their true colors, brandishing weapons and asserting their control over the passengers and crew with chilling determination. They subdued any resistance through intimidation, coercion, and violence, and completely controlled their airborne domain. With their captives cowed into submission, the terrorists set their sights on their intended targets, the towering symbols of American prosperity and power that loomed large on the horizon. With steely resolve and cold calculation, they maneuvered the hijacked aircraft with deadly precision, steering them inexorably toward their fateful rendezvous with destiny. The horror began at 8:46 a.m. when American Airlines Flight 11, a Boeing 767, thundered southward at a speed and altitude far lower than customary for such a large airliner over Manhattan. It smashed into the North Tower, 1 WTC, between the 93rd and 99th floors. This initial impact was not merely a breach in the building's steel and glass facade. It was a catastrophic event that set the tower ablaze, trapping hundreds above the impact zone and sending shockwaves through the city and across the globe. Office papers fluttered through the sky like grim confetti, marking a trail of demolition and disrupted lives. As the world struggled to comprehend the unfolding disaster, a second plane, United Airlines Flight 175, another Boeing 767, this one carrying 65 souls from Boston to Los Angeles, was also overtaken by hijackers. At 9:03 a.m., merely 17 minutes after the first crash, Flight 175 completed its deadly descent. Live television cameras, which had turned their lenses to the burning North Tower, captured the horrifying spectacle as the plane entered from the southwest, striking the South Tower, 2 WTC, between the 77th and 85th floors. The explosive force of the impact, much of it caught on live broadcast, sent a fireball erupting through the structure, horrifying viewers worldwide and leaving no doubt that America was under attack. The impacts of the 2 airliners did more than breach the tower's exteriors. They ignited massive fires fueled by thousands of gallons of jet fuel. The intense heat weakened the structural steel of both buildings. At the same time, hundreds of first responders heroically ascended the tower's stairwells, attempting to rescue those trapped and extinguish the fires. Office workers above and below the impact zones faced unimaginable conditions, smoke, fire, and chaos, and many made the desperate decision to jump from the burning buildings rather than face the flames. Simultaneously, American Airlines Flight 77, commandeered by yet another group of terrorists, crashed into the Pentagon, the nerve center of America's military might. leaving a smoldering crater in its wake and further underscoring the vulnerability of even the most fortified institutions to the scourge of terrorism. Amidst the disorientation and confusion, a fourth hijacked plane, United Airlines Flight 93, became the unlikely battleground in a desperate struggle between the hijackers and a group of courageous passengers who, armed with nothing but their courage and resolve, thwarted the terrorists' plans and sacrificed their lives to prevent further bloodshed. The plane ultimately crashed into a field in rural Pennsylvania, leaving a trail of devastation and heroism in its wake. The attacks claimed the lives of 2,977 victims from over 90 countries, including civilians, firefighters, police officers, and military personnel. The events of 9/11 profoundly altered the geopolitical landscape and reshaped global relations in the 21st century. The United States military interventions in Afghanistan and Iraq, launched in the wake of the attacks, sparked protracted conflicts with far-reaching consequences, including the destabilization of entire regions and the rise of new terrorist organizations. Furthermore, the attacks authored debates about civil liberties, surveillance, and the balance between security and individual freedoms. The proliferation of mass surveillance programs, both domestically and internationally, raised concerns about privacy rights and government overreach. In the end, the 9/11 terrorist attack was not merely an act of wanton violence or a random act of terror. It was a calculated strike designed to sow chaos, instill fear, and provoke a violent backlash that would further radicalize and mobilize the masses against the United States and its allies. It was a grim testament to the power of hatred, the folly of extremism, and the tragic consequences of unchecked fanaticism.